Max saw through the fence that his new neighbor seemed to be a genius. He watched as the neighbor tinkered with a strange device and soon released it into the air. Both of them instinctively observed the movement of the device, but it only made a few circles in the sky before getting caught in a tree. Curious, Max looked at his new neighbor, who appeared thin and stooped with a noticeably protruding spine. Max also noticed the special shoes and cane the boy wore, which confused him even more. Just then, Kevin noticed Max peeking at him and asked what was he doing. But Max just ran away. A few days later, the two met again during a PE lesson. Kevin was walking past the basketball court with his cane. The school bully saw an opportunity to attack him and threw the basketball at him. The teacher, who had just arrived, angrily asked who was responsible for the incident. The bully immediately pointed at Max, knowing he was not articulate enough to defend himself. As he assumed, Max wanted to explain but couldn't find the words and ended up receiving the teacher's scolding. He tried to help Kevin up from the ground. However, Kevin knew that Max was not the one who threw basketball at him, so he refused his help angrily. Max was very strong, but he was often bullied at school. His classmates mocked him for having a murderer as a father. And because of his reading disorder, he struggled in learning, which made things worse. Gradually, he became a target for the school bullies and rarely talked to people. Fortunately, Max had his loving grandparents who enrolled him in a reading class for people with disabilities. One day, fate brought Max and Kevin together again when Kevin was assigned as Max's teacher in the reading class. After introducing himself, Kevin asked Max for his name.
Max.
He talks.
Kevin pulled out a book about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Seeing that Max couldn't read, Kevin asked him to close his eyes and imagine as he read the story for him. He began with the tale of the great King Arthur and how he and his knights punished the evil and helped the weak. After finishing the first chapter, Kevin asked Max to continue reading on his own, but Max struggled with self-study. Nonetheless, Kevin was patient and encouraged Max, telling him that even dinosaur brains were only the size of a walnut, but they had ruled the earth for 165 million years, so there was no need for Max to feel so down. Every weekend, Kevin guided Max through the stories of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and the spirit of the knights left a deep impression on both of them. One day, Kevin was upset because his mom wouldn't allow him to go to a crowded park to watch the fireworks, fearing he might get trampled. He gave Max $5, hoping he could take him there. Max willingly agreed, and when they arrived at the park that night, they ran into the school bullies. The bullies began mocking and tormenting Kevin and Max, but Kevin, unlike Max, knew how to stand up for himself. He immediately fired back with his sharp-tongued. Unable to match Kevin's wit, the bullies decided to beat him up. Max hurriedly pulled Kevin into the amusement park, warning him to avoid provoking those guys. But Kevin didn't take it to heart. The fireworks display attracted a crowd. Kevin couldn't see anything from below, so he looked up at Max. Without hesitation, Max crouched down and in the sparkling fireworks, lifted Kevin up high. Kevin raised his arms and shouted loudly out of excitement. Max had seen many fireworks before, but this time they were the most beautiful. Kevin could tell the chemical elements of each firework just by watching the colors, looking like a scientist. The blooming fireworks were as vibrant and colorful as their friendship. After they finished watching the fireworks and left the amusement park, they were spotted by the bullies. Kevin kicked Max to signal for him to run, and Max immediately took off. With Kevin directing from above, Max followed the instructions and ran. Initially, they outsmarted the bullies, but ultimately the bullies were outnumbered, so they were cornered by them near the riverbank. It seemed like they were about to get beaten up. Kevin encouraged Max to cross the river, and Max gritted his teeth and walked towards the other bank. However, the bullies continued their relentless pursuit. Fortunately, they all ended up getting stuck in the thick mud and had to give up. When the police arrived to arrest the bullies, the two of them finally felt safe. As the police escorted them home, Kevin's grandparents had thought that Max had met a similar fate to his father and anxiously walked out of the house. To their surprise, their neighbor praised them, saying that their grandson had saved her son. Kevin's grandparents were genuinely proud, and Max sincerely felt happy. But the next morning, Max felt scared. When Kevin came to his window, he angrily gave him back the $5 from yesterday, saying he doesn't have any friends and doesn't need them.
Don't think of it as a friendship. Think of it as a partnership. You need a brain, and I need legs. And the Wizard of Oz doesn't live in South Cincinnati.
In the end, Max was convinced by Kevin, and from that day on, their city had a unique duo. They helped the elderly and punished evildoers. At a restaurant, they encountered a man who was beating his wife. Everyone else was too afraid to intervene, and Max felt the same way. But Kevin told him that actions speak louder than words and urged him to prove his worth. With newfound courage, Max, accompanied by Kevin, approached the man.
I said,
Get your filthy hands off of her.
In this moment, they were like courageous knights driving away the villain. The grateful princess thanked them for their help. While shopping, the store owner even said that this meal was on the house. The two of them bravely walked on a bridge, just like true knights. Gradually, Max also learned how to express himself. He complimented Kevin's mom on her delicious cooking and cared about Kevin's health. One day, Kevin saw thugs robbing a woman's purse on the street. When the police arrived chasing after them, they had no choice but to toss the purse into the sewer and escape. In the evening, Kevin found Max and they received a side quest to find the treasure that was stolen from the princess. Using his knowledge of physics, Kevin effortlessly lifted a manhole cover. But just as they were about to find the owner's identification in the purse, the thugs arrived, searching for the purse too. Max timidly wanted to hand the purse over, but Kevin refused and instead hung it around his neck, challenging them. As the thugs closed in on them, Kevin climbed to a higher spot with the purse while the thugs swung an iron chain at him. Seeing his companion in danger, Max summoned all his strength, lifted the manhole cover, and sent the iron chain flying. The thugs were scared and retreated. In the end, Max threw the manhole cover, successfully driving away the thugs. The next day, when they planned to return the purse to its owner, the woman recognized Max. It turned out that her husband had been friends with Max's father in jail. She exclaimed how much Max looked like his father. The woman's words forcibly tore open Max's unhealed wounds. When he was little, he had witnessed his father killing his mother and had pitifully stumbled through his testimony, trying to prove that his father was the murderer. Anxious and unsettled, Max forcibly opened the door and rushed out. Angry, he shouted at Kevin to stay away from him, believing he had been leading a good life without him. Seeing Max's dejection, Kevin opened up about his own past. His father was once a magician, but upon hearing about Kevin's congenital condition, he disappeared without a trace, just like he did in the magic shows. But what truly mattered was Kevin knew he would never become like his father, just like Max. They both arrived at the Knight Museum, where they knighted themselves in front of a knight statue. From that day on, they never discussed their fathers again because they firmly believed they wouldn't repeat their father's mistakes. There is no substitute for the original movie. A good film is worth watching it yourself. But you don't know where you can watch these movies? Use Superbox. With Superbox, you can access all live TV channels in 4K quality. It also provides access to over 13,000 movies and series, and updates with the newest content very often. The total cost for one of these is 2 months of your cable bill. Then you never have to pay fees or bills ever again. Click the link in my bio and use my code to get it at a better price.